Finally, some pushback against the Alberta separation movement. Thomas Lukaszuk, who a decade ago was deputy premier in Alison Redford's progressive conservative government, is spearheading a new group called Forever Canada. He has already filed paperwork with Elections Alberta asking that his question be asked on any future separation referendum. The question is, do you agree that Alberta must remain in Canada and any form of separation be rejected? I spoke to him about how important it is for Albertans to stand up for Canada. Welcome to the interview, Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
Look, you are involved with a new group that you've started. It's an anti-separatist group for Alberta. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we call ourselves Forever Canadian, and the group is the fastest growing group that I have ever been a part of. It's much like a political campaign, except it is nonpartisan. And what it is really is I have filed a petition with the Elections Alberta Chief Electoral Officer, asking under the Citizens Initiative Act that there be a referendum in Alberta that will reaffirm that Alberta will stay in Canada and that any concept of separation will not be considered. So the application is filed now. The commissioner is reviewing the application and will be certifying it, I imagine, within the next couple of weeks or so.
What kind of response are you getting in Alberta? And is the petition open to people across Canada?
No. So the petition can be signed in person on paper only by the electors in Alberta. So anybody over 16, over 18, anybody living in Alberta for more than 6 months, and obviously a Canadian citizen. So it will be available throughout the province. We yet don't know how many signatures we will have to garner because Danielle Smith, in her effort of helping separatists, she introduced a Bill 54, which lowers the numbers of signatures significantly from about 600,000 to about 175,000. But that bill hasn't been proclaimed. So we don't know whether we will be playing under the old or new rules, but frankly, it doesn't matter. Markham, to answer your question shortly, I've been involved in so many political campaigns. I've never seen anything like this. My social media and private messages are buzzing, and I don't know why, and I don't know how, but people are finding my phone number and calling me constantly. How can I help? Where can I sign? Most Albertans are incensed with the idea of treating Canadian citizenship as it's some kind of a contractual agreement that if it doesn't perform to their liking, they will just simply drop it.
What do you make of the Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's argument that she's only, making it easier for separatists because she wants to use it as leverage against the federal government to get the things that she wants for the oil and gas industry? I've made the point in other interviews that, when you say that you're using it as leverage, you're kind of giving away your leverage. It's not so what do you make of that?
Well, that's number one. She is not a good negotiator. She's the one that crossed the floor from Wild Rose to PC for a cabinet post and then didn't get one either. Negotiations are perhaps not her strong card. But the fact is that what she's doing is really dancing a very awkward, uncomfortable dance. She has 14 self-declared separatist members of legislature in her caucus, a few of whom are cabinet ministers. And without those 14, she loses government. She has a brand new political party known as the Republican Party of Alberta, which has a potential of splitting some vote and support from her as well. So she has to placate them. She has to do something to look like she is not a separatist, but at the same time help separatists. But she's playing with fire. The Citizens Initiative Act. It's not an act that every province in Canada has. Was put in place by Jason Kenney when he had problems with anti-vaxxers. And he says, here's a piece of legislation and you can have direct democracy. Government will do whatever you want. Well, they never used it. But now it's being used, again, virtually by the same group of people, but on a different issue. And the problem is this, Markham. Alberta will not separate from Canada, but the economic damage that it will cause to Alberta will be irreparable. We saw what happened to Quebec. There's a reason why the headquarters for Bank of Montreal are in Toronto now and not in Montreal anymore. We know what's happening in the Basque region in Spain. We know what happened in UK during Brexit. Investment wants predictability. Even if it's bad predictability, they prefer that to the unknown. And nobody wants to invest in a province in large projects like oil and gas projects if they have no idea if this province will be part of Canada.
Thomas, I first ran across you in 2012 when we were covering the Alberta provincial election, the one where Danielle Smith was leader of the Wild Rose Party, and it looked like she was going to win. And then there were a couple of what became known as bozo eruptions in the last days of the campaign. She lost, and you were elected in that campaign. You became deputy premier of Alison Redford's government. I want to ask you a question about caucus because and your party because the progressive conservatives as I understood them then were a big tent party that had people that were a little bit center or maybe even a little center left but also all the folks that seem to now be in the UCP, United Conservative Party, for our American viewers. um, they were in there too. And you
Yes.
somehow managed to keep all of the cats in the bag. And then the cats got out of the bag, and now the cats are holding the bag because essentially the UCP seems to me to be like the old Wild Rose Party, which has got the radical populists, as Professor Dwayne Bratt calls them. What's it like in your caucus that you remember, and the one that the way perceive things now?
People often asked us in the past, how can you be progressive conservative? Isn't that an oxymoron? And the answer was, yes, it was. Because we actually had progressive and very conservative members in our caucus. And all the bloodletting was taking place in caucus. And I have to tell you, some of our caucus meetings and cabinet meetings were pretty ugly, where there was a lot of swearing and cursing at each other. But at the end of a caucus meeting, we found some kind of a compromise on a policy, and then the entire caucus or entire cabinet would adopt it, and that's the policy we went with. So the progressive conservative government was putting forward policies that were already compromised because they have gone through this very unpleasant but productive process. Now, what we have in the United Conservative Party is the absence of the counterbalance. People like myself and other centrists are no longer in that caucus, so that process doesn't take place at all. They are very like-minded in that caucus, so they produce policies that are a product of this, and we see that. See, one of the benefits of actually us having these vigorous, often vicious meetings was that we actually managed to produce a piece of policy or legislation that already had a lot of flaws worked out of them because that process would vet that legislation. Now we are seeing bills and amendments to bills put forward simply based on ideology, but very little scrutiny vis-a-vis, is it ultra virus against the Constitution? How does it work with other legislation already in place? It isn't there. So I frequently say that if you have a room full of people who think exactly the same, odds are no one's thinking, and that seems to describe the UCP caucus right now.
Give us an idea, and we'll wrap up the interview with this, Thomas. Give us an idea of how many people you have in your group to date, and how rapidly it's growing. And is there an end date here by which people can sign the petition? And maybe you should mention where they can find it.
Yes. So it started with four people. Me calling my business partner, and then calling a couple more people. And since people like you in the media sort of put the news out that this effort is taking place, we already have hundreds of people. We will be launching our website sometime next week because the question is, where do I sign the petition and how can I volunteer? So it will quickly grow into tens of thousands of people who really want to participate. The petition will be paper, the old style paper petition where you have to sign it with a pen. So we will have to make those petitions available virtually in every town, county, and village throughout the province. But what's encouraging is that we already have town councils, legions, labor unions, post-secondary institutions contacting us and saying that the moment this petition is certified and is allowed to be distributed for signatures, please have it in our city hall. Please have it at our university. So we are very, very encouraged that way.
Well, Thomas, good luck. I mean, we've made no secret here at Energy Media that we oppose separation and want to keep Alberta inside the country. And so we applaud your initiative here. And thank you very much for this. I'm sure I always enjoy our conversations. I'm sure we'll have you back.
Markham, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.